A single piece of equipment on this ship costs more than the entire annual military budget of New Zealand, not the ship. One piece. The ship itself costs $13.3 billion. That's more than the total defense spending of 42 countries on Earth combined. But here's what nobody tells you when they show you these images. What you're looking at isn't a warship. It's not a floating airbase. It's not even a weapons platform. Not really. It's an entire military-industrial complex compressed into 1,100 feet of steel. And there are only 11 of them on the planet. Every single one of them flies the same flag. Most videos about American aircraft carriers will show you the same handful of weapons, the same fighter jets taking off, the same close-in defense guns spinning up, the same explanations you've heard 100 times. This isn't going to be that video. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to see something different. Every system on this ship, every catapult, every defense gun, every aircraft, every reactor is going to be measured against something specific, not against another piece of military hardware, against entire navies, entire air forces, entire countries. By the end, you'll understand something most people never realize about American carriers. The most powerful weapon on this ship isn't on the deck. It isn't even in the hangars below. It's something invisible, something that can't be bought, can't be copied, and can't be built, no matter how much money another country is willing to spend. But the strangest part isn't what these systems do. It's the reason no other country on Earth will be able to build them in the next 20 years. And once you understand why, you'll never look at one of these ships the same way again. Let's start with the ship itself. The Gerald R. Ford-class supercarrier is the largest warship ever constructed. To put that in perspective, the next largest carrier in the world, operated by any other country, is roughly half the size. 1,106 feet long, 256 feet wide at the flight deck, 103,000 metric tons fully loaded, 25 stories tall from keel to mast, 4.5 acres of usable flight deck. If you took a Ford-class carrier and stood it on end in the middle of any major city, it would dwarf almost every building around it. But the dimensions are the boring part. Inside that hull, there are over 4,500 sailors and aviators. There are 6,000 individual rooms. There are 3 meals a day served to a small floating town for months at a time. There are 2 nuclear reactors generating enough electricity to power a city of about 200,000 homes. And on the deck above all of that, there is something the rest of the world simply does not have. A complete, self-contained, deployable air force. A full carrier air wing on a Ford class includes around 60 fighter jets and combat aircraft, F-35C Lightning II strike fighters, F/A-18E and F Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers for electronic operations, E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft, MH-60 helicopters, CMV-22, B Ospreys for logistics, 60 combat-capable aircraft on one ship, floating anywhere in the world the United States wants them to float. Now compare that to something tangible. The Argentine Air Force operates around 14 modern combat aircraft today. The Royal Netherlands Air Force operates roughly 40 F-35s. Egypt, a country of 110 million people, operates around 200 fighter aircraft, but spread across the entire country. A single Ford-class carrier brings the equivalent of a top 20 national air force anywhere on the globe in about 4 days of steaming. And the United States operates 11 of these. Not 11 over the next 20 years. 11 right now, with 3 more under construction or planned. That's not a navy. That's not a fleet. That's a global standing presence that no other country has ever attempted, let alone matched. Which raises a question worth keeping in your head for the rest of this video. What would actually happen if just one of these ships went out of service? You'd think the answer would be a small reduction, a 9% dip in capability. Manageable. The actual answer is something different, and once you hear it, the rest of this video will hit differently. But before we get there, let's go up to the deck, because what's parked up there is worth examining one piece at a time. The air wing. The first system on this ship that outweighs entire countries isn't a missile or a gun, it's the aircraft. The F-35C Lightning II is the United States Navy's newest carrier-capable strike fighter. Each one costs around $101 million to produce. Stealth airframe, sensor fusion, combat radius of around 600 nautical miles, internal weapons bay, data link integration that allows it to function as a forward sensor for an entire strike group. A Ford-class carrier doesn't operate one F-35C. It operates an entire squadron of them, alongside Super Hornets and Growlers, all working together as a single coordinated combat system. The unit cost alone of the air wing on a single Ford-class carrier, just the aircraft, before fuel, before munitions, before maintenance, runs into the range of $6 to $8 billion. It's more than the total annual military budget of Sweden, more than Norway, more than the Czech Republic. But that comparison undersells what's actually happening here. Sweden has its air force inside Sweden. The Czech Republic has its air force inside the Czech Republic. The carrier air wing is inside international waters, anywhere on Earth, at any given moment. That's the difference between owning a fire department and owning a fire department that can drive itself to your house. Close-in defense. Now move to the edges of the flight deck. What you'll see, if you know where to look, are small enclosed mounts with stubby barrels. These are Phalanx CIWS, close-in weapon systems, the last line of defense against incoming missiles, drones, and small craft. Each Phalanx mount fires a 20mm rotary cannon at 4,500 rounds per minute. That's 75 rounds per second. The system tracks incoming threats with its own self-contained radar and engages them autonomously without human input in the final seconds before impact. Alongside the Phalanx, the Ford class carries the RIM-116 rolling airframe missile system, short-range surface-to-air missiles designed to engage anti-ship cruise missiles. And further out, the evolved Sea Sparrow missile, with a range of around 50 kilometers, providing the medium layer of self-defense. That's 3 independent layers of defense on the carrier itself, before we even discuss the escort ships around it. There is no other warship in the world with this density of automated point defense, not one. But the carrier doesn't fight alone. And this is where the comparison to other navies stops being unfair and starts being almost cruel. The Aegis Escort AUS carrier strike group typically includes 1 or 2 Ticonderoga-class cruisers and 3 to 5 Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers. Every single one of these escorts is equipped with the Aegis combat system. A single Arleigh-Burke-class destroyer carries up to 96 vertical launch cells. Each cell can contain a standard missile, a Tomahawk cruise missile, or an anti-submarine rocket. Modern variants can engage ballistic missiles in mid-flight using SM-3 interceptors. They can engage aircraft and cruise missiles using SM-2 and SM-6. One Arleigh-Burke destroyer, escorting a carrier, has more vertical launch capacity than the entire surface fleet of many nations. Pakistan operates a navy of around 11,000 personnel and 20 principal surface combatants. The combined vertical launch capacity of its entire fleet is a fraction of what one American destroyer carries, and there are 5 of them around every Ford class. Now back to the question we left open. What happens when one carrier goes out of service? The United States Navy maintains 11 nuclear-powered carriers. At any given moment, only about 3 to 4 are actually deployed. The others are in maintenance, training, or refit. Losing one carrier to combat damage, to a major accident, to extended overhaul, doesn't just mean a 9% reduction in fleet size. It means a 25 to 30% reduction in immediately deployable carrier capability. And replacing a Ford-class carrier takes between 6 and 8 years of construction, plus another 2 years of trials and certification before it deploys. That's a decade of strategic absence for a single ship, which is why these vessels are some of the most aggressively defended assets in the entire American military. Not because of what they cost, because of how long it would take to bring one back. But the most expensive system on this ship isn't a weapon at all. And that's where this gets strange. Emails, the catapult that rewrote naval aviation. For 70 years, every American carrier launched aircraft using steam catapults, massive pistons driven by steam diverted from the ship's reactors, slamming aircraft from 0 to 160 miles per hour in 2 seconds. The Ford class doesn't use steam. It uses something called EMALS, the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. Instead of pistons, it uses a linear induction motor. A carriage moves along a track, accelerated by electromagnetic fields. The launching force can be precisely controlled, which means the same catapult that launches a 40-ton fighter can also launch a 4,000-pound drone without damaging it. Each Ford-class carrier has 4 EMALS catapults. Together, they can launch an aircraft every 45 seconds, sustained around the clock, for as long as the ship has fuel and pilots. Do the math. A Ford class can theoretically launch 160 aircraft sorties in a single day, more than most national air forces fly in a week. EMALS exists nowhere else in the world. China has begun integrating an electromagnetic catapult on its newest carrier, the Fujian, but it operates on conventional power, not nuclear. The result is a fundamentally smaller operating envelope. The R&D cost of EMALS before a single catapult was installed was reported to be in the range of nearly $1 billion. The system was developed over more than a decade. It exists because the United States was willing to spend a decade and $1 billion to shave a few seconds off a launch cycle. No other country has been willing to do that. Most can't. A 1B, the reactor. Most people never hear about below the flight deck, deep inside the ship, are the 2 systems that make everything else possible. 2 A-1B nuclear reactors. Most coverage of carriers focuses on what's visible. The aircraft, the guns, the flag. The reactors are invisible, and they are the reason this ship exists. Each A-1B reactor produces around 3 times the electrical power of the older A-4W reactors used in the Nimitz class. Combined, the 2 A-1Bs generate enough energy to power not just the ship's propulsion, but EMALS, the radar systems, the climate control for thousands of crew, the food production, the desalination plants, and reserve capacity for future weapons systems, including directed energy weapons that haven't fully been deployed yet. The reactor cores are designed to last the entire 50-year service life of the ship without refueling. Read that sentence again. 50 years without refueling. A diesel-powered carrier, the kind operated by every other country with a fleet carrier, has to refuel roughly every 2 weeks under heavy operations. It has to coordinate with tankers. It has to plan its movements around fuel logistics. A Ford class can stay at sea at full operational tempo for as long as the food and ammunition hold out. The reactor isn't a constraint, it's an enabler. The development cost of the A-1B reactor is classified, but estimates place the lifetime cost of the propulsion plant, including design, construction, and decommissioning, in the range of multiple billions of dollars per ship, more than most countries have ever spent on a single naval system in their history. The recovery side, AAG launching aircraft, is half the cycle. Recovering them is the other half. The Ford class uses something called Advanced Arresting Gear, or AAG. It replaces the older hydraulic system with a water twister rotary engine that absorbs the energy of a landing aircraft using induction motors. What it allows, in practical terms, is recovery of a much wider range of aircraft weights, including drones that hydraulic systems would simply compromise on impact, which means the Ford class is the first carrier in history designed to recover unmanned combat aircraft as a standard operation, not as an experiment, as doctrine. That's not next-generation thinking. That's the next 2 generations, already integrated into a ship that's been in commission since 2017. Now we've covered the visible weapons. We've covered the invisible systems. We've made the comparisons to entire navies and air forces. But none of that explains the question that's been sitting underneath this video the entire time. Why can't anyone else build this? China has the world's largest navy by hull count. Russia inherited the second-largest naval industrial base on Earth from the Soviet Union. India has the budget. The United Kingdom invented the modern aircraft carrier. None of them operate a Ford-class equivalent. None of them are close. The standard explanation is money. American carriers cost too much, the argument goes. Other countries can't afford them. That answer is wrong. It's not even close to the real answer. China has spent over $1 trillion on its military modernization in the past 2 decades. China could afford to build Ford-class equivalents. So could the European Union, collectively. So could Saudi Arabia, if it chose to. The reason none of them have isn't financial. It's industrial, and it's temporal. A Ford-class carrier is the visible product of something that took the United States 100 years to build. Not the ship, the capacity to build the ship. In 1922, the United States commissioned its first aircraft carrier, the USS Langley, converted from a coal ship. From that moment until today, there has not been a single year when the United States stopped building, operating, or refining carrier aviation. A century of accumulated learning, a century of manufacturing precision, a century of training pilots, deck crews, catapult operators, arresting gear technicians, nuclear reactor engineers, a century of supplier relationships, companies whose entire business is making one specific component for one specific ship class. The Ford class is built at a single shipyard, Newport News Shipbuilding in Virginia. It is the only facility in the world capable of constructing a nuclear-powered supercarrier, not the only American facility. The only facility on Earth. That shipyard employs over 25,000 people, many of them 3rd or 4th generation shipbuilders. Their parents and grandparents built the carriers their children now build. You cannot replicate this with money. You cannot order it from a catalog. You cannot speed it up by hiring consultants. China started serious carrier construction around the year 2000 when it acquired an unfinished Soviet hull. It commissioned its first operational carrier in 2012, its second in 2019. Its third, the Fujian, with its electromagnetic catapult, entered sea trials around 2024. That's a quarter century of accelerated effort, with full state funding, to reach the point where the United States was operating in the 1960s. And here is the thing that almost no one in the public conversation about military power understands. Time is the one resource you cannot buy. You cannot accelerate the training of a master shipwright. You cannot compress the learning curve of a nuclear reactor design team. You cannot fast-track the institutional memory of a Navy that has been recovering aircraft on moving decks for 92 years. What you're looking at when you see a Ford-class carrier isn't a weapon. It's the visible tip of a 100-year industrial process that no other country on Earth has been willing or able to sustain. The aircraft on the deck can be matched. The radar systems can be matched. The catapults, given enough time, can be matched. What can't be matched is the chain of competence that built them, the thousands of suppliers, the tens of thousands of trained personnel, the doctrine refined across 9 decades of combat operations and peacetime exercises. That's the weapon nobody talks about, and it's the one that actually matters. Go back to the first thing you heard in this video. A single piece of equipment on this ship costs more than the entire annual military budget of a country. That sentence is true, but by now you understand it differently than you did 15 minutes ago. It's not the equipment that costs that much. It's everything required to make the equipment exist in the first place. The shipyards, the reactor designers, the supplier chain that stretches back to before the Second World War, the institutional knowledge accumulated since 1922. A country can buy a fighter jet, a country can buy a frigate, a country can buy missiles, radars, even submarines. A country cannot buy 100 years. That's why there are 11 Ford-class and Nimitz-class supercarriers on the planet, and they all fly the same flag, not because of money, not because of secrets, because of time. Other countries are building. China is building fast. By the 2030s, the gap will narrow on certain individual systems. Catapults will be matched. aircraft will be matched. Some carrier-on-carrier comparisons will become genuinely competitive. But the deeper structure, the industrial base, the supplier relationships, the trained workforce, the operational doctrine, that takes generations to build. And no one is in a position to compress it. When you see one of these ships in a photograph, you're not really looking at a piece of military hardware. You're looking at a century of choices, accumulated and made physical. Some countries chose to invest in this, most didn't. The ones that didn't will have to make different choices in different domains to project power in the decades ahead. The aircraft carrier era may not last forever, but while it does, only one country has the depth of industrial and operational capacity to operate 11 of them simultaneously anywhere on the planet on demand. That's what these weapons are, not steel and circuits. Time made visible. If you found this interesting, subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out other videos on our channel.